my brief pod will be about Roger Goodell, who runs the NFL. And coming out of the Super Bowl, of course, he was top of mind. Not one of the positive, uh, you know, breaking news. Patriots fan, not pleased. Bad Bunny, absolutely freaking fantastic, and I would watch just the halftime show over again if I knew the outcome of the game, of course. But as you may have seen, even Goodell had a moment after halftime where he had an embrace with Bad Bunny, and just think about, that's Goodell's been in the job for 20 years, and in the league, it's been, long periods of stability, relative stability, with frequent hiccups, but it's a complicated business. So Paul Tagliabue, who preceded him 20 years ago, was in the position for 17 years. So that's in an organization. If you have an effective leader, obvious OBV. Keeping somebody in place like that just makes the trains run on time more frequently. So overall done a good job. He certainly has been challenged, and some of it is he has done a few flesh wounds to his own feet, but he's also been just you run a huge organization, complex organization. You run into shit, right? So in his tenure, I guess, and my team, the Patriots, of course, feature prominently. And with humility, when you compound. The first was Spygate, right? And we're talking Belichick and Brady. And Spygate was, I guess, Goodell had been in the job for a year or so, and all of a sudden you got Bill, Bill Belichick, Mr. Spock, whatever, uh, had sent one of his spy team to tape the defenses for 10, a dozen different teams. It's never determined exactly how many, but it was, taking what he thought was a legal advantage. Did he? I don't know. Did he know that that was against league rules to do specifically what he did? I mean, there are, there are scouts in professional sports, every sport, and in every competitive endeavor. I mean, the Chinese Communist Party has plenty of scouts in the United States, walking around trying to get into to Microsoft and pick up some pointers. So spying is they call spying the world's second oldest profession, and the first, I guess, although it's distasteful, they say it's prostitution. Um, Not ironically, there is a connection with the NFL to both of these august professional pursuits. And of course, everything. I'm not going to get too metaphysical. I am, I'm more Buddhism curious than a pure practitioner. But I guess if you were a pure practitioner of Buddhism, you may be doing it wrong because that means you're trying too hard, right? So there has to be sort of a come to it come to it honestly if you're doing the Buddhism thing. What I'm getting at is that everything in the world is connected in some way. Living beings, other life, other forces, and our unifying theme, it seems now, is that everybody's connected to Epstein in one way or another. Certainly, it's in the media and in our, infecting our government, and as we're finding out, ravaging the UK with Peter Mendelsohn and, former Prince, former Prince Andrew Mountbatten, former Prince Andrew. It has taken a bigger whack out of the UK than it has the US at this point because the difference is, of course, accountability, and the Brits are doing a better job with accountability than we are here, right? But as I outlined in my episode on Super Bowl Sunday itself, that there are you know 7 owners on 6 teams that double dipping on the Washington one Redskins, one guy, and one Commander is a different guy that are mentioned in the Epstein files, not with any convictions for any improper behavior or criminal acts. But and there are a lot of people that will be mentioned in the files that does not suggest that everybody mentioned is guilty of a criminal act, but it's suggestive perhaps of bad judgment or something else. You be the judge. So, Roger, uh, uh, Spygate, right? What does he get to? He thinks he's gonna. That'll be the one major controversy facing his service as a head honcho. No, no, the hits keep coming. Ray Rice, which an incident that uh, does not, and it there's no joking about it because it was a tragic circumstance, but it's almost, that's is that 12 to 14 years, some substantial period of time ago, um, at least 10 to 12. And the fact that there was videographic evidence, now everybody has a camera in their pocket. But back then it was, hotel cameras. And the woman that he battered uh, quite seriously, according to the footage, was his fiance at the time. And you remember that Roger Goodell initially suspended Ray Rice for 2 months or 2 games, excuse me. And then, due to the public outcry, the justifiable public outcry, he was suspended indefinitely, and Goodell took a lot of deserved flack for that, running sort of the issue that was surfaced around the same time and continues to haunt the league today is the traumatic cerebral encephalitis, the brain injury, right? That can, repeated concussions and concussions of mild varieties, and I've played the game and wore out, not as a professional, but only in up to and through high school. But you think about the drills that you used to do in the 70s, and when you sort of took pride as a dude, that it was a violent game, and helmet on helmet contact, and you were taught to tackle with your helmet and then slide it to the side so you could see what was coming behind. That it was a different era. And as like everything in life, as people got a little bit smarter, they changed the protocols and the equipment improved. But that is still, if you look at the statistics on the number of children, uh, because women play football as well, but it's still predominantly male, that the number of kids, because the data over the years also shows that the earlier you sustain those sort of brain injuries, the more likely you are to develop the encephalitis, the underlying condition, and that can stay with you for your entire life. There was a huge settlement. It was, back more than more than a decade ago. The settlement was $750 million with players that had been injured and the families of those that had died, um, perhaps due to that condition. And again, of course, everything has to be about the Patriots because it's me that Aaron Hernandez, as you remember, when a wonderfully talented tight end who was uh, who was known as a kind of a wild man and hothead at down at Florida, where he played his college ball. And then with the Patriots, he was kind of, he was the opposite tight end to Gronk, Gronkowski, who was, a league legend as a tight end, maybe one of the best to ever, no, maybe. Rob Gronkowski is one of the best tight ends to ever play the game and arguably the best blocking tight end to ever play the game. And Aaron Hernandez was wonderfully talented. He was playing, you play with next to Jerry Rice, then you're always the guy that played with Jerry Rice, right? Even though John Taylor was magnificent. But yeah, so Aaron Hernandez, as you know, he lived down in the southern Mass, sort of near the stadium, near Foxborough. I guess he was living or staying in South Attleboro. He had a number of, he loved handguns, and he was running around with, verifiable gangbangers who, of course, would like to affiliate themselves with pro athletes. And he would go on sprees, and they were robbing people. They were engaged in violent acts against other human beings, and he committed murder. And it was, I believe that his family consented to some brain analysis after the fact, and he was indeed affected profoundly by that condition. So it's and that is, they didn't cure it. There's no pill. AI isn't going to fix that. The AI will help scientists develop more effective helmets. Absolutely. That will happen. It's already happened. They've made the helmets are substantially better than they were a decade ago. And that improvement comes because they have endless supplies of money to do these things. And that's great. But still, when you have when you get concussions, I've had a few over the years, and I won't say that there isn't any sustained consequences of those, because my better half would probably argue with that. But trying not to make light of it is a serious issue. It's just one that came up repeatedly. It'll continue to do as long as football is a sport. It will continue to come up, and it will adversely impact individuals, and hopefully less and less. But the idea of keeping kids, young men and women, out of the sport until a particular age because of the very real science. Now, in Trump anytime, but Trump 2.0 and the MAGA world, it's like, oh, how are they going to learn to be men if they don't play contact sport? I played a contact sport when I was that whole thing, that the mentality about it was good enough for Bear Bryant. It was good enough, that the mentality, the macho over overriding the science. And that's, there are climate deniers, science deniers, COVID skeptics, COVID antagonists, and then there's RFK Jr. So there are plenty of crazies out there that want to deny things just to be in with the cult, in with the what they consider the in crowd, the people that they're trapped trapped amongst. Right? Moving forward, so the encephalitis portion of that is running in the background. Not Roger Goodell's fault for not insisting 10 years before they discovered the impact of that disease that they should improve the helmets. That's my understanding of it. Now, I'm not a scientist. I'm clearly not a doctor. Um, could the league have done more? Perhaps, but that's not. That won't be my issue today because I haven't studied enough about what the league might have done, what the league was warned to do. It's, excuse me, towards the end, before the settlement, when the data became available right at the beginning of Roger Goodell's tenure, and that's why, thus the settlement, right? And that amount, whatever amount of money, can't give you back the years for oh, Mike Webster, maybe. Is that it? The Steeler, maybe. But I won't guess names because that doesn't end well for me. So let's take it back to the Patriots again. If Spygate ain't good enough for you, there's Deflategate. Right? Did Tom Brady or assistants to Tom Brady or team assistants for the assistants of the assistants to Tom Brady take a little air out of the ball in adverse weather to give him better control as a quarterback? Did it happen? They said that sort of the preponderance of the evidence was yes, and that's why in Spygate, as in Deflategate, there were fines to coaches, fines to players, and the most excuse me, the most consequential penalty, which I was surprised that the league went this far because I think of Goodell as somebody who's firmly in the pocket of the owners. I mean, obviously, the owners they are the ones that have the money that fuels the sport. But without player safety, there is no sport, right? So the we're coming at those interests are coming into balance. The current anti DEI, anti science, that's not helping. So that will set us back while we're getting rid of this MAGA phase in our lives. But overall, the trend is positive. So, excuse me. So the real impact, of course, is lost draft picks, and that's a real thing. That really hurts. Even a genius, a guru like Bill Belichick, who was um, who was fairly good at talent spotting. The Tom Brady, chicken and egg. He didn't come as a fully formed star when he left. Michigan. I think whatever he is, he was drafted in the sixth round, maybe, right? So I think that works out to be player 150. Yeah, math major. But Tom Brady wasn't destined to be the greatest quarterback of all time, and you can argue that he is. Yeah. So so there's some fortune, there's player development, there's the luck of you know uh, the almighty above or whoever you think is running the place, that somebody matures physically a little later than other people do. Tom Brady will never beat many people home in a 40-yard dash, but he did some things. The way that he saw the field, and the way that he processed things and the speed at which he did was just remarkable. And we have the rings in New England to prove it. And a lot of people are hating, for the aforementioned reasons, the deflate gate and the spy gate. You could argue as either as a Patriots fan or as an opponent that that ain't fair. They cheated, and that's you know whether you're a Patriots fan or not, you have to entertain the argument that but for the cheating, would they have been as successful? It's we don't know the answer to that because it's not knowable. But you have to anybody that discounts that or dismisses that argument is being intellectually dishonest and a silly person. So you don't want to be one of those because there are plenty. We got that category of human covered completely in our world these days. So don't do that. Don't be another silly person. Excuse me. So Roger. So he's had a couple run-ins with the Patriots. He had Ray Rice. He had the underlying brain injury, and I don't want to skip over another event that was really pretty well connected to the Bad Bunny angst, if you can call racism angst. No, let's call it racism. Racism. Um, Colin Kaepernick, right? So exactly that was a year after Deflategate, 2.5 years after Ray Rice, I think. Um, Colin Kaepernick. That's a decade into the 20 years that Goodell's been in the driver's seat. And as you remember, due to Colin Kaepernick made a principled decision to kneel during the national anthem because what he felt as a human being and a person of color was happening with racial justice, police brutality, and related issues that he was going to respectfully. He talked to people. He talked to military folks. He kind of took a consensus. How could I? How can I protest in a way that is not disrespectful, perhaps, to veterans? And he did it. He investigated that, so he wasn't just like uh, flying off at the handle. He's a very, if you've listened to him speak, he's a very intelligent, very thoughtful man, right? And but because the league is, it's white owners with the money, not predominantly black athletes, but a fair amount. And, there are inescapable comparisons to much earlier times in our nation. You might have heard of some of them when that power dynamic between white and black um, ended in some pretty reprehensible behaviors, right? And so, for standing up for his own dignity and standing alongside those that were victims of police brutality and racial, you know, profound all of the profound racial disparities that have characterized our country since it was founded, standing up and then taking a knee to signify that there's still something wrong. I want to bring attention to it, but in a way that is not all about me. Right? That's my humble read on it. You can beg to differ. Um, won't won't worry me a little bit, and it probably won't sway me because I was paying pretty close attention then, and thinking a lot about it in the last day or so after the Super Bowl. He, of course, as you know, was never really given a chance to compete again in the league. That's 10 years now, right? And as a professional athlete, each year that goes by, there's much less chance of you getting a meaningful chance to compete at that level because it's really hard. Very few people, excuse me, can do it at any point in their career. And now he's, 20 years since, no, oh, it's been 10 years, right? Since he last threw a pass in the ball game. So what is it? 15 years since his first rookie game, maybe something like that. It's regrettable. It's regrettable that he didn't wasn't given another chance. Roger Goodell did, to his credit, late, but he made a statement that he had regrets about the way that it was handled. But even after making those statements, there weren't any owners willing to stand up and try to do the right thing. Now, is it? Did he have secret tryouts and that his skills had degraded so much that no team? I mean, just look at the freaking. If you're a football person, and I mean, I used to watch a lot more than I do now, but look at the Cleveland Browns over the past 5, 6, 7 years, and team like that, you think that they could have used a guy on their bench? I, and I would think as a wonderful role model to young men, particularly young black and brown men, but all men, as somebody who stands up for principles they believe in a measured way. That's that's admirable. So that's it's a tragedy that happened, and it can't really be rectified because because of the amount of time that's elapsed. Even if he was given an opportunity as a backbencher, as a third stringer, and he accepted it, how long? I don't know what's in it. I don't know what he cares to do about that. But it's regrettable. Right? I'll because it's chilly out, and somebody just decided to start using a what I think is bandsaw or table saw. Maybe you can tell from the pitch. Um, my apologies, but get outside, and that's you get. What you get. Um, Bad Bunny. There have been other controversial act. Right? It's Kendrick Lamar. Is that controversial? No. There was that was that Janet Jackson's wardrobe malfunction with who was that with Justin Timberlake, maybe. Um, yeah, marvelous performers. And the all the best of the best. There were, uh Whitney, Sheryl Crow, and many others, right? I'm sure that the great Beyonce was in there somewhere. She better be. Um, you know, so there have been the halftime show is it's a big thing. It's like a career milestone for some Tay Tay, whoever else, right? That's like checking a major box that they aspire to be invited to do that. And Bad Bunny. So obviously, uh, Trump is looking for reasons to be aggrieved. That's just his mo. Like if you're doing something, if he doesn't, if it's not his original idea and you're doing anything that isn't absolutely to his liking, then he's going to have a grievance because everything should be all about him. That's the Donald J. Trump MO. It has been for his entire life. I'm going to try to surreptitiously pop a lozenge sort of thing in my mouth because I have maybe one of those little. Now, I was going to say I have a little bit of a cold, and you could quite reasonably say, "Well, asshole, you're the guy that's always sitting outside when it's 9 effing degrees out," and that would be a very accurate observation, and I appreciate that. If that's what you were thinking, I gave voice to it on your behalf. So that is true, and of course, the Ziploc is far too complicated for me to open clearly. So that may just have to wait, and my sultry dulcet tones may go a little bit further south than they normally do. Um, got it. So yeah, Bad Bunny, was did I own all of Bad Bunny's, did I own all of his songs on iTunes or something? I did not, honestly. Excuse me. I am fond of, any talented creator and musician with that much energy, sign me up to check it out. Whether, we connect and are BFFs for, you know, uh, I don't know. But he's a magnificent performer. Then, for me, just because he's a Latin singer doesn't mean that he's doing salsa. But of course, Bad Bunny is, and he's a Puerto Ricano. He salsa is alive in Puerto Rico as it is in DR, Venezuela, and other places. And in fact, one of my one of my lesser known here's a here's an old cracker giving you a salsa recommendation. How's this? Okay. You didn't pay for this, but you're going to get it in any case. You didn't pay for anything. But a gentleman I was actually turned on to when I lived in Venezuela, but he's a Puerto Rican dude, and he's sort of kind of old school traditional salsa, right? For salsa for the elderly, right? And his name is Milo Ruiz, and I'm going to say it Maelo Ruiz, Ruiz. So check him, YouTube. What is the song that I'm going to recommend that you check out? There's a pretty slick video for one in old school video senses called the song is Asi Eris 2. Asi Eris 2. Right? So Milo Ruiz. That's a not for nothing category, right? So Bad Bunny, all of the things, and the political element is cannot be overlooked. Now, Mega got their panties twisted in a bunch twice about this whole thing. I was listening just about an hour ago to a clip that I think was from the day before of I wanted to say Anderson Cooper, and that's not who's the annoying British some guy. I'll get back to that. I'm going to let that cook in the back of my head. Generally speaking, MAGA world got their panties in a bunch, and Trump stoked it because this here is an American game. So, you know, you do all the songs in Spanish? No, no. This is America. This is apple pie. This is meatloaf. This is not, you know, the entree. Fried chicken. This is America. And so this this Spanish speaking foreigner, Puerto Rico, U.S. territory. This foreigner singing to us in Spanish on our day is sacrilege or worse. Not like not like raping children or anything, but it's really bad. It's really bad. So yeah, so MAGA did not like that at all, and so that of course that made me. I am the biggest Bad Bunny fan ever now. He's the best. He can do no wrong, and I will listen to him. I will give him the clicks, the downloads, whatever, all the things, because he did a public service, right, at exactly the right time. Because during the Trump administration and all the horrible things they're doing on race, excuse me, it is so important that we allow the people that are under the most pressure to step up and be seen, you know, not to cause conflict, because the conflict's coming from another place. It's coming from the oppressors. The conflict's coming from the racists. The rest of us are just living our lives, right? Black and brown people, Asian people, people from all over the world that are here, legally or otherwise, are under pressure. And but the conflict's coming from untrained, heavily armed, private a private police force assembled by Donald Trump with some level of immunity, which is just wrong. I sincerely hope that the Democratic Party, even though it's going to cause airline travel delays, it'll cause upset, of course, but they need to stand their ground, because it has to end. And you want to have one officer in a guardhouse every 5 feet on the southern border of the United States for the rest of time. You know, we it would be less expensive than what we're pissing away right now, just in the Caribbean and in the two carrier battle groups that we have going. That's by the time that's all done, that'll be 3, 4, 5 billion. I'm sure that Home Depot would get us some prefab huts with AC, and we can put them every 3 feet on the border, and put a properly trained officer in each of them, and give them a privy, and wish them well, and tell them to pack a sandwich. And if that secures the southern border, that's great. And then let's get back to being Americans, and being neighbors, and things like that, and just say, okay, the only way that we got control of this generational immigration problem, naturalization, INS problem, was to have Donald Trump come back in 2.0. Okay, if you want to argue that, that's fine. There may have been other means, I don't know, and it doesn't matter now, because we are where we are. Does that justify $4 billion in the accounts of the Trump family children? The losing Alex Preddy, losing Renee Good, all of the people that are in the centers that we know nothing about, that are being injured or living with rats and cockroaches and scabies and being fed dog food and people in El Salvador are being fed worse than that, or not fed at all. There's no justification for any of that. Not there. I mean, you can say things. You can do what the Mike Johnson does, which is prevaricate and otherwise make shit up. Anybody can do that. I was listening to what's Senator Kennedy earlier today. He's up for re-election, and he's just making shit up too. And you're a senator, you get good at lying, right? You're a professional politician. Um, John Thune, disgracing himself, his family, and the institution. John Roberts, ditto. Very bad. So okay, well here let's just ride out with Roger, right? So 20 years in, there's always going to be rumors about retirement. He hasn't announced anything. My secret, excuse me, my secret um, plan for the succession is Mike Tomlin, you know, who retired as the head coach of the Steelers. The only This doesn't have anything to do with his skills as being, as running the league, but I thought that it's kind of like the guy from yesterday, the uh, Kevin, the new Fed chair, right? That you 35 years old and you're a Fed board governor. Amazing, amazing. Right? Um, Mike Tomlin, exceptional leader, and I think it's NFL only, but I'll say the only NFL coach to have a winning record for every season he was in the league. It's amazing. Great leader. Players love him. And the next commissioner should be a black guy. Should be a man. Excuse me, a person of color. It's more likely to be a guy because it's the league and the players are predominantly male. That may sound unfair, but it's going to be that way. So why don't we focus on the candidates? My The more likely replacement is Troy Vincent, right? Not a good player, a great player, right? He came in as a DB. I guess he was drafted probably in. Oh, let's see. Troy Vincent was, we'll call it 2006, out of Wisconsin, fading elderly memory. Say 2006, Wisconsin, drafted by Dolphins. Okay. And a great career. I'm going to guess he played a dozen years. It may have been one or two more. And he went directly into league operations, and he's been there ever since, and has been reportedly doing a wonderful job. And he's kind of right now. He's the most senior football guy in the league offices. Football guy in the football league, yeah. But he was also the former head of the Players Association. So think about a relatively young man of color, player's rep with all that experience. He's the natural guy. But years ago, excuse me, um, people were, how about could we get Barack Obama to take the job? Senior leader, checks a lot of boxes. High profile job. Could he handle a high profile job? Yeah, he's probably up to the task. Don't I? He should write books and focus on getting Democratic Party winners back into the circle. So yeah, so that'll be after, but he still has to announce that he's ready to go. And while you're thinking about what you're doing next, he's Roger's also a relatively young man too. I'm going to guess that he's 64. So, and and coincidentally, if he's 64 or 65, that's his annual salary, not thousand. Right? So, a portion of that is performance based. How's the league doing? The league's doing great. Don't worry about it. They're doing fine. So he's clearing well north of $60 million a year. Would you be in a rush to retire if you were? I don't know. It's a lot of money. So that's Raj, and handled Bad Bunny situation well, embraced him literally and figuratively. By doing so, I think he gave and I am going to circle back just and hit Epstein quickly, even though we talked about that over the past couple episodes. That, you know, the way that Raj didn't hug Bad Bunny, turn to the camera and say, thanks, DJT. He didn't do an outward because that wouldn't suit his position. The league, the ownership in the league is, predominantly white billionaire. And I'm just off the top of my head, white and a lot of Jewish white male ownership. So um, that doesn't mean anything at all, except as a proportion of the population, that level of achievement, financially and otherwise, is remarkable and wonderful. Right. So so Raj maybe just hangs, it'll be great. Maybe he retires, it'll still be great. The traumatic brain injury will always be a thing, and some had guessed that that would cause the league to not fail, but that if kids were starting football much later and the appeal in Europe waned, and they're always talking, European teams, Mexican teams, Canadian, well, I don't, Canada, they have their own football league. And with until we get DJT fully the F out of here, that I don't think they're going to do any outreach with Canadian ownership groups. And the CFL people would not like that, and they shouldn't. I mean, they have a perfectly good product in Canada, and they should be proud of it, as they are every time they beat us in hockey too. So um, yeah. So and just back, you have to tie everything, it seems, back to Epstein. Our old Raj, nothing I saw that he was a direct participant, but certainly, first in this moment today, first and foremost, Steve Titch, the owner of I guess the majority owner of the your New York Giants, is under the most pressure because I think he has 800 name hits or something like that in the Epstein files, and has a lot of explaining to do. He made a statement today or last night that it was coincidental, and while he knew him, he never had any. There's which is what you say, right? Until proven otherwise, I guess, or what your lawyer is saying. But he's going to be under a lot of pressure. Will that be the somewhere between sacrificial lamb and Judas goat? What is that going to be? Will Roger have to? Is he going to need to take one person and bludgeon them on camera. All the other owners are watching because there will be other controversies. There will be other sex scandals. How does he handle this? Because he's surrounded by a bunch of white guys his age with a lot more money than he has that are, if the league is going to survive, then they need the owners to be sweet. So it's a tough, and then, DJT, Hall, tossing Molotov cocktails in from the sidelines just to be a dick, right? I mean, that's his MO. So it's not an easy job. 60 mil, you're well compensated, right? You have to deal with some shit at that level. You can afford it. So yeah, so we'll say we'll wish a hat tip to the NFL putting out a wonderful product, right? That it's the marketing. Um, I know you folks hate me because I always have a little add-on thing. I'll hit one thing, and I promise to say, but to not mention sports gambling, right? Because now all the leagues are in bed with the companies, right? Whether it's the Flutter, DraftKings, FanDuel, right? They're all it's incestuous little pool of primaries. It's been, the NBA stories have been the ones that have been in the news more, where the outcome of games has been affected by sports gambling. But it's in the NFL. It's the player from wide receiver from the Atlanta Falcons who was suspended, or yeah. Um, it's in every sport. It's all over the place. And how does Raj manage that? My as a former, I used to write, participate, try to build a fairly good sized business around that industry a long time ago, before it was legal. So we'll talk about that some other time. But, to I would say, for the good of our kids, grandkids, the youngin, that it would be best to kill the whole thing. You know, I was like, yeah, but, yeah, but offshore, illegal, the bookie down the street. We're back to doing everything. The people that own the businesses will say, well, now it's going back in the shadows, and the evil tentacles of organized crime will once again have their, what is he tenant, have their, on the necks of the American, you know, and you'll be, and people, your son will be beaten up by a guy named Tony because he's not even keeping up with the VIG. It's the world will end. You know what? The end of democracy will kill that will kill all of us first. It won't be sports gambling, but there's a very real impact, just as there is with TikTok, and they're not unrelated. That sports, as I did in an earlier episode, there are, that case study in a school outside of San Francisco, in a relatively affluent community in Marin County, California, where they pulled all of the kids in a high school. Yeah, all the kids in the high school, and of the boys, 70 whatever percent had placed a bet. And gambling is illegal. Sports gaming is illegal in California, so they're doing it by other means. That's a problem. Has it always been a problem? Yes, but that's not an answer, right? That's like, uh, going back to my Ben Shapiro, comment, saying, "Yeah, but Biden did it." That's not an answer, right? That's a short trip between excuse and justification, but it has no value. It's, intellectually dishonest and silly. So saying that it was like that before, so doesn't give you anything of value. So it's important. It needs to be addressed. Safety, the amount of money that the leagues are going to have to spend to ensure that in the age of AI, to ensure that people are not corrupting the game. It's a lot of money. I think, certainly eliminating the prop bets is a great first step, and many states have, have done that. Just like they kicked, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, they kicked Chumba Casino and Ryan Seacrest to the curb because it's addictive, and it's a gateway drug to more profound, gambling disorders. So, yeah. Thank you. Appreciate your time, at an irregular hour, and, all of the, restack, retweet, and subscribe. Tell two friends, and thank you. And we'll catch up with you sometime tomorrow. Thank you.